Perfect. Looks like the recording worked.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. This is Kim Blood. I'm with the RMS PMO at the Huntsville Center. I am one of the functional construction people that consults with the PMO. I'm from the field construction, so I'll be kind of explaining and relating what we do in RMS with our business processes. Paul McGuire is one of the contractors that works at the RMS Center. He's a longtime member of that programming team and is very well versed in RMS. And so he's going to be running the actual presentation and showing how to work through the processes in RMS in the software. So this training is intended to reach out to RMS beginners. We have a lot of new faces in the Corps that are required to use RMS to do their normal duties with contract administration out in the field. And so how we've structured this training is that we have gone out and asked people to provide us with questions, commonly asked questions that they have as beginners. And we were able to put out an outline, and we're going to attack the most commonly asked questions first and kind of go in that order. So we're going to talk about submittals first, then we'll move into quality control, QA, then we'll move into finances, and then administration if we have time. This training will be posted later on the RMS website. There will be a link posted, and you can refer back to this training in a future date. So please, if you have questions, go ahead and type them into the chat feature in Skype, and then we'll try to answer those as we go along. And so without further ado, we're going to start with submittals. And so Paul will bring up RMS. One of the commonly asked questions is just how to get through submittals and how to download them, then how to process a package, and then uploading into the document packages and sending those documents over to PCF. And if you could, if you're on the phone, please mute your phone. I can hear some background noise. Okay, so Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we're going to start with the submittal feature.
All right, perfect. Okay, let me open up RMS here at the bottom. I have two copies of RMS opened up. I have a government mode copy of RMS, and I have a contractor mode copy of RMS working at the same time. So if you didn't know before, you can have multiple copies of RMS running at the same time. You can be logged into government mode and have several contracts opened up with your CAT card. How do you know the difference between contractor mode and government mode? Up at the top right-hand corner, I have blue tiles for government mode. When I switch over to contractor mode, I have yellow or gold tiles for contractor mode. So most of you will be working in government mode, but for the sake of seeing what the contractor does, how to get it over to the government, and what you do, I have a copy of contractor on my side. Okay, so we were going to talk about submittals, the process of going through and doing a transmittal from the contractor to the government. Inside of both copies of RMS, the first thing you have to do is open up the contract. So right here, I have the contract selection view. Up on the top left-hand corner, we have the listing of offices, listing of contracts. As you open up contracts, this recent list will fill. So this last contract that I was in right here will appear here. So I can open up that. When I open up that, I am inside of the contract, and we have the main module tiles at the middle here. We have administration, finances, quality control, quality assurance, submittals, schedules, closeout, import, export, and reports. We're going to start off with submittals here. So right now, what we have to do for the submittals, usually when a contract is started, some districts will preload the specification sections with a list of sections from a library, or they'll add a few just to show the contractor how to do it. This is a training contract, so a lot of the data in here was filled out from various forms. So on the government side and the contractor side, the information is the same. So when we go to hit the add button, we have the ability to add a manual section or pull from 3 different libraries, the 95, the 2004, or 2014 library. Adding a spec section, RMS will pre-fill out what it expects. So I can say my test section right here, and I can go in and add in a specific number. If I type something that's incorrect, it's going to do a red outline and tell me this is not an acceptable section number. If you move your mouse over that red line, that red box, you'll get a list of what is acceptable, what it expects from the 95, the 2004, and whatnot. So here we can do an 01, 32, 15, and that's acceptable because we have a 16 up here. If I tried to do a 16, it'll be a red box saying, sorry, this already exists, so it won't let you add one that already exists. So we can add that there, hit OK, and that will add a specification section for my test section. Now, if we were going to add from a library, say we wanted to add from the 2014 library, so this is a pretty big library, right? You scroll down, there's quite a few here. Instead of just picking which ones you want, what you can do is you can click one, hold down the Shift key, and select all of them that way. Note, my mouse has to be on the section. If I'm on the checkbox here, it doesn't let me select multiple when I do a Shift click. So again, I have to click on the section right here, hold down the Shift key, and then hit OK like that. So we'll show how that works. So we'll do this here, hit OK. And what that'll do is add all those specification sections into our contract. So there they are right there. And on the contractor's side, just so you know, if you ever have 2 copies of RMS opened up at the same time, the data will not refresh until you move off the screen or come back or hit the refresh button up at the top right-hand corner. Some of you will notice that the refresh button right here is spinning. That means that the server has new information. And if I hit the refresh button, it should pull in the latest information to match what I have on the government side. Note the refresh button stops spinning. So that's how you get data to sync across. If it doesn't work with the refresh button, just move off, hit back, and then come back in. Hitting the back button ensures that whatever you have on your screen gets saved. So if you're working on something, you're typing out a long document, it's highly recommended that you don't leave your RMS, when you go to lunch or you end the day on that screen. Hit the back button so that you know for sure that the information gets saved. So for example, if I go in and I add a new section, we'll just do this one right here for training's sake. Hit OK, and hit back again, and I hit back. Sometimes what will happen is you'll see these boxes where I go and I add information. Sometimes it takes time. It'll sit there and spin with those balls that go back and forth. So that's basically letting you know that your information is getting saved to the server. That's why we do that, so that when I'm making changes, it's at least getting up to the server so that that point on I can go forward. All right, so we did a spec section. We pulled from the library. Now, after you have your spec sections, again, depending on your district's policy, some districts will pre-fill out from the library. Some will just have it blank and expect the contractor to import everything through an Excel template that they have for that district. It all depends on how that works for your districts. Now, once we have the spec section going, note that we have these modules down here. We've got specification sections, submittal register, transmittal log. A lot of the modules inside of RMS work this way, where you have to start from the left and make your way to the right. So before you can do a submittal register, you have to fill out your specification sections, because the submittal register is based off of your specification sections. So a lot of people ask, well, what do these section numbers have to do with anything, right? When I go and add so just so you know, we're inside of the submittal register now, okay? When I go and add a submittal item, the first thing that comes up is my list of specification sections, right? So this is where the number comes from. Everything that you do inside of the transmittal is based off of the number. So if I want to go in here and I click on quality control and I hit next, it's going to create a submittal item based on that section number. So I have 014500. This is going to be a 7. You can go in here and add extensions if you want to. So if your district has, requirements that you number things a certain way, you can. Now, the reason why I chose a 7 there is because there's 6 submittal items already in for the section number. So that's why that chose a 7 there. So if I hit finish, I'm going to go in and create a submittal item that is 7.0 for this section number. I can go in and add a description. This is the 7th submittal item. And that is the title for the submittal item. Now, obviously, most of the time the contractor is going to be going in and doing this, but RMS allows the government to go in and do this as well for the submittal items. Here, I can go in and assign my submittal item to a pay activity. The reason why this is important is because if the contractor has imported a schedule into RMS with Primavera through the SDEF, or they manually put in the dates, that's where this start date comes from. So right now, my activity does not have a date on it. I don't think any of these do, but if that did have a date, it would pre-fill out these dates. And that's where everything else is pulled from. Inside of the contract setup, you have the lag and lead for these days. So inside of the contract setup, you can set up for the contract the defaults for the period, the days for review, and the lag lead. I'll show you where that is real quick here. So we're exiting out of the submittal register. Note that saving to database. That saving to database is really important because it lets you know the changes that you made were saved to the government database. So that way none of your data is lost. So we'll hit back one more time. We're going to administration, contract setup. And once we open up the contract setup, we can go to the submittals and schedule. Here is where the government review period and number of copies comes from for the contract. So if you set these days here for government acceptance, for information only, and whatnot, that's where those days come from. We can also put in a resubmittal period and whatnot. And that will apply to all the submittals from this point forward. So let's go back to the submittal register. All right, so on the submittal register, the screen has a lot going on, right? We have up on the top left-hand corner, we have a big button here that says, click to select another register. If you're one of the few districts that have more than one submittal register for the contract, you can click on this, and it will allow you to select a second submittal register. It's basically the same thing with a whole new set of submittals. Here, this contract only has one submittal register, so when I click on that, it says I have to go into the contract setup, the tab that I was just on, to add an additional register. Here, I can click on all items, or I can click on outstanding items that have contractor action. If I click on this tile right here, it will sort this list by the outstanding items with contractor action required. Notice the status is outstanding. I can also go here due with less than 7 days. I can also go here to overdue. So these tiles are really important. You can click and sort all of the data. Some contracts have thousands and thousands of transmittals. So this allows you to sort down your submittal register to see what's going on. So back here, just remember that you can go back to all items to get the list of all submittal items. Down at the bottom here, at the bottom section, you're going to notice the transmittal history. The transmittal history is a history of what has happened to this submittal item over its lifespan. So we have right here, for example, on this submittal item, 013526, the Accident Prevention Plan, it's been a part of 2 transmittals. One, it was a part of a transmittal that had an EQA code. We'll go over the QA codes here in just a few minutes. And then it was part of a resubmittal right here. So that gives you a little bit of a history of what happened to the submittal item just by going and clicking on these individual submittal items. All right, so we've pretty much covered adding a submittal item. Let me go here one more time just to make sure that we covered it all. Notice when I added the last submittal item, it was a number 7. So again, RMS automatically increments it to number 8. And when I've done that, right here, we have the classification. This is very important for the classifications. The reason being is because when I group these submittals into a transmittal, it will sort them based on the classification type. So if I choose a transmittal and I say, all right, I want this submittal item that's for information only, from that point forward, I can only add like FIO submittal items to that transmittal. I'll show you that in a little bit. So I go here, we can choose a submittal type, whether it's design data. The primary contractor reviewer, that's something that the contractor sets, so that's why it's grayed out on this side because we're in government mode. We have the primary government reviewer right here, and the secondary reviewers that we can assign from the staff list if we hit the add button. So this will come in from the the district staff. So right now, I'm just going to leave this test 2. We'll say it's for this activity right here. I'm just putting in data so that we can fill it out. Again, as long as the contractor has a schedule, that's where the start date will be pulled from, the activity start date. All right, so I'm going to hit the back button. The search box right here is real helpful. So I can go here and I can type and it will automatically search. It's a live search. So while I'm typing, it will parry down the submittal items. Note though that if I'm on an overdue, I clicked right up here on the overdue, and I do a search for submittal items that I know exist, none of them are going to appear. And that's because I have it selected down to only outstanding submittal items that are overdue. So to go back to all items, I just click right up here, and therefore my search will be relevant again. So that's something to keep track of. Yeah, every now and then when I'm working inside of RMS and I have things filtered down to a specific overdue or due date, it's common for me to do a search and not find items that I was looking for. So there you go. All right, so here's all of our submittal items in the submittal register. Again, on the contractor side, it looks identical to the government side. So we're going to mostly be focusing on the government side. So here's the contractor side, same thing. They go in and add a submittal item, identical. Now, on the transmittal log.
Okay.
On the transmittal log, we have the same thing, where I can go up on the... Oh, looks like we got a hot mic. If someone, if you're on the call, please mute. All right, perfect. Okay, so up on the top left-hand corner, we have the same thing that the submittal register had, where I can select multiple submittal registers. So if you're in a district that has multiple submittal registers, I can go in and click that and switch between them. Up on the top middle portion, right up here, it's very important to pay attention to the item or to the filter that you're on. Right now, you see that little blue underline underneath the transmittals and review? That's where the government will spend most of their time, the transmittals and review, right? When I go into contractor mode and I click on transmittal log, the contractor is going to be in draft transmittals. Note they have an extra tile here that the government does not have. The reason being is that the contractor is the one that creates the transmittals, right? The government's not usually the one going in and creating transmittals on the contract. So we're going to show this on the contractor side. Right now, I have a section number on the contractor side that's waiting to get over to the government. This is a copy of an old contract. That's why there's some 2013 dates in here. But what we're going to do is we're going to show adding a transmittal on the contractor side. We kind of showed up here. If I click on pending government receipt, notice that little blue line changes and the tile of the module that I'm on changes. Transmittals pending government receipt. And then I click on transmittals and review, that changes completely. Pending contractor acknowledgement, that changes as well. So keep an eye on that little underline. Okay, back to the transmittal log on the contractor side. Note on the contractor side that we can see the transmittal that's in draft mode just by kind of looking at what's going on at the bottom right here. But what we're going to do is we're going to go and add an item here. Now, note, when I go and add a specification section, sometimes the contractor will ask us, well, how come I don't see all of my specification sections when I go and add a transmittal, right? The reason being is that the only specification sections that show are the ones with outstanding submittal items. So we know we've got quite a few more specification sections than this, but these are the only specification sections that have outstanding submittals, right? So I'm going to go here to quality control, and we can show that, by the way, by checking this little box up here. It says all sections. All right, so I'm going to choose quality control because I know I have a few in there that that are different classifications. So note, I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 submittal items for this specification section, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check this box right here for FIO and note, all of the GA classification submittal items have disappeared. The reason being is when you do a transmittal, it's got to have the same classification type. So if I uncheck this, all of the GA classification submittal items come back. Again, if I check a GA classification submittal item, all of the FIOs disappear, okay?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an FIO right now. So we'll select these 3. And again, you can click on the item number and shift click all the way down to select multiple at once. So if there's like 20 submittal items that they're going to send, it's a lot easier just to hold the shift key down, but it has to be on the item number. All right. Okay, here we go. Now for the transmittal, again, it's based off of the section number. It's going to increment by what's there already. So for this section number, we've already got 2 transmittals, and because it's not a resubmittal, the extension is 0. And again, it says this is not a retransmittal. Hit finish. Again, we're on the contractor side, not the government side. And here is a transmittal on the contractor side. So here are the QA codes, right? Oops. We have a lot of questions on what do these QA codes mean. Again, it's the same for QC and QA. A is approved, B is approved, C is approved. Kimberly can actually talk a lot more about this than I can. So I don't know if you want to do that now, or I don't think last time I think we had a question on that, but this is important because we have resubmits on this. So if they choose E, G, or X, RMS will do a retransmittal or resubmittal on this item, right? Of course, on the contractor side, they're going to choose A. And the reason why we're showing the contractor side is because in order to do a transmittal, it has to actually be done on the contractor side. So we're going to send this over to the government and show what it looks like on the government side. So here we go. We have the A code on all of the classifications. Here are our remarks to the government. A lot of the questions that we had dealt with the document package. So let's talk about that real quick. The document package, FYI, is pretty much the same on the contractor side and on the government side. Each submittal item has its own document package, as well as the overall transmittal has a document package. So up here, I can click on the step 1 quality control and click on 0 attachments. And it's going to take me to a screen where I have a government section document package and I have a contractor section document package. Big question, why? The answer is there are some districts that have a process for doing transmittals that require this setup. So on some submittal items specifically, the government will have attachments for that item that they want the contractor to see but not be able to delete, or they want the contractor to submit attachments on that item. For example, on one transmittal in a district that I think it was Mobile district, they actually have their contractor do their schedules inside of the transmittal as a submittal item. So each month appears and they attach it to that month. So they'll go in right here and click on 0 attachments and add a document here for the document package for that month. And that's just how they do business, right? That's what their government reps tell them that they have to do, and they do it. So here is a document package. This document package is kind of the staple inside of RMS. It's everywhere, right? It looks very similar to the government side as well as the contractor side. Up at the top middle here, we have what the document package is. So this is in item 3 for this transmittal. And from here, we can add attachments. Now, something you may not have known, I can go here in Windows Explorer, and I can multi-select multiple files and add them to the document package. You don't have to do it in this little box right up here at the top right-hand corner. You can do it in the main window right here. And what that's going to do is that's going to go in and add every single item that I drug over there to the document package. And it can take some time. The reason being is because after every item that it adds, it's going to make sure it saved it to the database so that there's no data loss, right? Because, you know, the connection, internet can be unreliable. You know, sometimes the information can take a long time to get to the server. So what we're doing here is we just drug over a whole bunch of files and added them to the document package. So therefore, here we now have a whole bunch of items on this document package. So when I go back out, that is the item there. Now, one of the questions that we had, what is the size limit for the document package? It's an individual item limit, so every item that I copy over to the document package has to be under 250 megabytes. However, there's no limit on how many 250 meg attachments that I can attach to the document package. So I could have 10 250 meg files and put them inside of a document package. And the reason for that being is we had to do that because we didn't want to overload the network that deals with backing up this data. So now, submittal item, we have 7 attachments, and it's not complete, right? So it's very important that the contractor goes in and actually submit the document package once they're done. Sign anything if they want to sign it. So we're just going to complete that real quick. No documents, that's fine. We don't need to sign anything. They're all text files, right? So we hit back. There we go. 7 attachments and complete. So here's what a transmittal looks like on the contractor side. We're going to go in and sign this 2025 and send it off to the government. Nope, we have 014500-3. So here we go. We're going to sign this, which basically saying no more changes after this will be allowed. Hit the OK button. It's creating the 4025 for us to sign, and it's committing it to the database, and now we do the signing process.
Okay.
And that should pop up with a pin request here. Now, as a contractor, most of your contractors are going to have usernames and passwords, not pin requests. I have a cat card, so I've logged into contractor mode with my cat card. But just for the sake of showing you what it looks like, there we go. Now this transmittal has been sent off to the government side. 014500-3, back to government mode. Notice the refresh button is spinning up here. I hit refresh. Now I have 2 pending government receipt. Notice it's not appearing on the screen I'm on right now. Why is that? Because I'm on the Transmittals and Review tab. So I'm going to go over here to Pending Government Receipt. This is the transmittal that the contractor sent us. It's an FIO transmittal with 3 submittal items, right? We need to put in a government received by date. Nope, as soon as you put in this date, it's going to move it over to in review, and the clock starts ticking. We'll move off of that. Now we have the transmittal in review. This is it right here. So on the government side, I'm going to open this up. And on the government side, I have a whole bunch of options here. First off, I can run the 4025 report at the top right-hand corner here, or the government remarks before I've completed anything, just to see what it looks like by clicking on these buttons right up here. So if I click on that button right there, it's going to generate the 4025 with no signatures, just to show what it looks like. It's not going to have any of the codes or anything because I haven't completed out the transmittal, right? Nope. The attachments that the contractor sent us right here on this submittal item. We can look down here for the 4025 that the contractor has signed. Notice that little key symbol. It says contains 4025. This is the shared document package. Down here, these are for government-only document packages. Because certain districts do things a certain way, they wanted the government-only document package. So right up here, first thing that we need to do is we need to put in our QA codes, right? We're going to hit the down arrow. What we're going to do is we're going to do a resubmit on this, okay? So we're going to say disapprove, disapprove, and disapprove. Now, say your contractor sent you a transmittal that's completely messed up. They accidentally attached something they didn't want to attach. Somebody went in and sent off a transmittal without realizing it. You can click this button right up here, return to contractor for corrections. Clicking that button will instantly send it back to the contractor as if they've never sent it before. So you can do that at any point. Return to contractor for corrections. Right now, we're going to do a resubmittal process. And what we're going to do is, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to sign this right here and put this on the 4025. If your district requires you to print this out, manually sign it with a pen, scan it back in, you can do the manually attached 4025 and put that inside of the document package, the shared document package. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to apply the QA code and sign on the government side. So this is what you'll be doing on the government side. We QA coded the submittal items individually with a resubmit, and we're signing that into the 4025, and this is going to send it back to the contractor. There we go. So now we hit the back button, and this is a -3, the 014500-3. Notice that disappeared, and is now over on the contractor side. So I hit refresh. And pending contractor acknowledgement.
Please mute your phone.
And this is the one that we just sent, right? September 9th, 2020. You have items 3, 4, and 8. All right, let me put a date in that real quick here. So we'll put a date in that. What that does is that basically says contractors received it. We know that we're going to have to do a resubmittal on that. How do we do a resubmittal on that? Okay, so what we're going to do now is do a resubmittal. So to draft transmittals, the contractor is going to hit add. They're going to go 014500, hit OK. And note, we have the E-coded items that were rejected by the government that we need to redo, right? They disapproved. So we're going to select those, hit next. And note, RMS automatically sees that this is a retransmittal. It's going to add a one extension, and it's going to have a transmittal prefix. And that is a resubmittal right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the finish button. And I heard you loud and clear. All right. This is a retransmittal of that same submittal item. So we have a transmittal 014500.3.1, right? And that is how the contractor does a resubmittal. Again, they can do individual document packages for each item, or they can go down here and add it to the main document package for the transmittal. So I'm going to back out of this because we don't really need to see this on the contractor side because we're mostly working in government mode. Here, these tiles up here, we have pending government receipt. The clock doesn't start ticking until we go in here and put in a date, right? Can you show how the contractor or government would edit a document? You're talking about the document package? So here's a transmittal in review. I'm going to go in here. Okay. I don't think I have anything attached to this one. So let me go into completed transmittals. So here's the transmittal we worked on, right? The one that we redid. I'm opening this up as the government, and there's 7 attachments in here. So how would the government edit the document package? So what they're going to do is they're going to see there's a 4025 down here and the 7 attachments for the submittal item right up here, right? So I'm going to click on the 7 attachments right here, and that's going to open up the document package that we took all those text files and popped them into the document package here. So I'm in the government mode right now, and I'm opening up on the government side. Here are all of the attachments that the contractor sent. Now, I can go in and I can view every single attachment one by one. Well, that's a little bit of a problem, right? Because that's going to take time, especially if there's a whole bunch of them. So what we can do is we can export selected documents right down here, this button right here. And again, I can click here and shift click all of these and hit OK. I want to download every single one of these to my computer. And it's going to say, well, where do you want to save it? We can say this computer, my C folder, and let's put this, make a new folder called temp2, and we'll put it in there, okay? So now that's going to take everything, all these files, and download that to the temp2 folder. Now, of course, I did it to a folder that was not, I don't have permissions to download there, so I'm sorry. That crashed RMS. RMS3, let's start RMS. I cannot create a folder outside of here, so let me do this. C, new folder, temp2. I have to remember I'm on a government computer, not on my contractor computer. Okay, so here we go. I'm logging back into government mode here. All right, so here's government mode. We have a test district off to the left-hand side. So we don't deal with live data when we're developing for RMS or testing. All right, so that's logging back in. Let me resize this down over here. So here's the contract we were in on the top right-hand corner. And let's go back to the transmittal. So did that answer the question on how to get files outside of the document package? Obviously, it kind of hit a little bit of an abrupt end there. But you can go in and you can select all those files and you can download them to your computer. Or if there's just one or two, you can view it individually. Note that sometimes we've had problems where if Adobe is up and you have the old file showing from the document package and you try to view another file that involves Adobe, sometimes RMS will sit there and say it can't open up the file because Adobe's already running, or it's got the same file name as the one that you have opened up. So what I usually do is if I have Adobe running and I don't need it anymore, I shut it down and then try to view the file. So that's something that we've had to do. So here we go. We have the completed document package right here, and this is where we were. So right here for the 4025, I can go here and I can view the signed 4025 by clicking on the view document. So what this is going to do is this is going to open up the 4025 that's signed. So that's going to take a few seconds because it's got to sit there and send that to Adobe and open that up on my computer, which, there we go, takes forever. So there we go. We got the two signatures, right? They look identical because I'm the one that signed both of them as the contractor and as the government. It's got the government codes in there as well. There you go, right there. So that's how you get this. You can save it to your computer. You can export out the selected documents right here, or click on Save Document to File if you just want to save this one, because it's the one that's got the signature, right? It's the one that's most important. Now, some of the questions that we had, very important. How do I get this off to PCF? Well, I have to accept the document package. So right here, document will be marked ready to send to PCF when the package is accepted. So it's very important that as you're going through and dealing with these document packages that you accept it, or if it needs fixing up or the contractor needs to add something, they can return for corrections. So I'm going to accept the package. Yes, I want to accept this document package. Again, I'm in government mode, right? What I'm doing now is I'm accepting this package and boom, it's going to be sent off to PCF. So I hear a lot from resident engineers that are using RMS is they get hounded because they're not sending stuff to PCF. How do you send stuff to PCF? Right there. You accept that document package that you were working in, poof, 4025 goes off to PCF with the signature. Everyone's happy. You hit the back button. This has been accepted. You can hit back one more time, and there you go. So the question was, document packages for each individual submittal item, are they different than the document package down here for the entire transmittal? So what's going to PCF? Is it the transmittal document package or these? You have to go in and complete out each document package for it to go off to PCF. So right now, the only thing that we did is we sent off the 4025 to PCF. So I still have to go into here and I have to click on here and complete this document package for it to go off to PCF. Now, that's only if you want it to go off to PCF, right? So this submittal item, I have a whole bunch of text files that I required that the contractor put in for the submittal item. If I don't want that to go off to PCF, I don't have to complete it, right? However, if I want that to go off to PCF, and it's very important that PCF gets that, you know, my boss tells me everything that I do in RMS has to go off to PCF, then yes, you have to go inside of here, complete this document package, and send it off to PCF. And if so one of the questions were when I try to submit a ticket, yes, when I try to submit a ticket, RMS crashes. If that happens, please contact the RMS Support Center. We can help you out with that. There's specific cases where a CAT card has a specific email on it that it's not the email that we need in order to create the ticket, and it has a problem with that. So yeah, we can help you out with that if you contact Kimberly or the RMS Center. Okay. There we go. So that's kind of the process of the 4025. Note, I can still return this to the contractor for corrections up here. What that's going to do is that's going to create a second document package with the 4025 when I go through and do everything. So a lot of the questions we had dealt with the daily reports. So I'm going to go here to QA/QC, go to QC mode on the contractor side, and we're going to walk through doing a daily report. All right, so we may need a fresh contract. So you saw RMS crashing there several times. We have test contracts that are designed to do that until the programmers go in and fix the item. So that may be why this is crashing over and over again. So this contract exists in a test database that's designed to give me messages as a developer that says, hey, this happened here, fix this, and whatnot. Yep, exactly. So our T2 database, as you saw, this contract's actually a copy of a contract from 2013. So there's a lot of data in here that can cause issues. So if I get another crash, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop over to another contract, but I'm going to try to continue in this specific contract. All right, so here we go. We have the QA reports on Contractor and on the government side. Just to show you what it looks like, I'm going to focus mostly on the government side. So again, at the very top, you have the sorting tiles. You can show all the daily reports. You can show the ones that are only completed, and you can show the ones that are not completed or not required if you have non-work days or days that are not required. Okay, and just remember, if you do click on one of these tiles, it's going to stay on that tile until you click off. So if you're searching for a specific day and it doesn't show up, make sure you're on the All QA Daily Reports. Okay. On the contractor side, what I'm going to do is, for the sake of showing what it looks like, I'm going to create a daily report for today, 9/9/2020. There we go. I'm going to create that, and we'll back off of that on the contractor side. I'm going to go back to the government side, and I'm going to create a daily report for 9/9 as well. This warning, by the way, just tells you, hey, you've got some daily reports that are not completed. We need to complete those daily reports. Recommended that you go and complete that daily report. So I'm going to hit OK. And yes, we need to move on to a different contract. This contract is completely broken. So what we're going to do is we're going to move off. And I may need to, let's go to, was this the contract we were using, James? I think for the advanced training? All right, so we're inside of a daily report now on the government side. To show the contractor side, what we're going to do is, I think this is on a different contractor. This is on James Construction. So I'm going to open that up real quick. Few seconds here. We have the RMS Training 2 contract on the contractor side. The reason why I want to show this over here is I want to create a daily report for this day, the same day that the government's working on, right? So I'm going to hit back, go back out. I'll slow down, so give me a second. I'm going to open up the daily report again. There we go. Okay. The reason why I did all that is because I wanted to show if the contractor has a daily report for this day, it's going to show on the QA report at the top right-hand corner here. Notice that QC daily report did not appear until the contractor went in and created a daily report on the same day. That's what I wanted to show. So up on the top right-hand corner for RFIs, for transmittals, for payments, for daily reports, you have the ability to pop out a report to see what it looks like, right? Again, we try to show what the report's going to look like here in the middle on the daily report, but if you wanted to see what it looks like before it's complete, you can click on these two tiles right up here, and that will generate a daily report for that day on the top right-hand corner here. All right, so we're going to walk through doing a daily report on the government side. The first thing you have to do on a daily report is enter the weather, right? So we clicked on the weather tile. We went over here to QA weather, and we chose to cause no delay. 5 inches, we'll say 5 mile an hour wind. So that's what it looks like for the QA weather, right? We have weather cause no delay. We put in a nice temperature. It's not super hot. We hit back, and that will fill out the weather data. Notice right here in the middle, the QA weather instantly updates to what we entered in. The weather data is the most important. It won't let you complete a daily report without the weather. If you ever try to hit report completed without putting in the weather data, it'll complain, right? So here are the narratives. Let's go over to the QA narratives. A lot of this is blank because we're working on a different contract that I didn't have prepared, so I apologize in advance. But we hit the add button for the narrative. We have two options when we add a QA narrative. We can either copy from past daily reports, or we can manually add a QA narrative. So let's manually add one real quick. I'm going to say these are verbal instructions that we gave to the contractor on the job site. And here we go. Here is a QA narrative. Simple. Note that the staff automatically assigns to my CAT card. So as I'm putting in a QA narrative, it automatically says, hey, I recognize your CAT card. You're so-and-so from this district, and it will automatically pop that in. We'll say shift 1 or 2 or whatever. Told the contractor to do whatever, right? We can also mark whether or not this is a safety-related issue or an unresolved issue that hasn't been fixed yet, right? So I hit back, and now we have the QA narrative here in the middle. Nope, the bottom area will show that narrative is. So what I'm going to do is, we noted a lot of these narratives tend to be similar, right? The government goes to the job site, they do certain inspections on certain days, and sometimes to save typing, we can go in and copy previous days, right? So obviously on this contract, there's only one to copy. We'll hit OK. It's going to go in and create a copy of that narrative and put that into our contract here. All right, it's taking a few seconds. A lot of people are using RMS right now. We'll give that a few seconds to go. On the contractor side here, all right, here we go. So there are the 2 QA narratives. So note, again, if you need to select multiple, make sure you're not on the checkbox, you're on the item itself. You can shift click and it will do a whole bunch of them at once. So here we go. We have this one right here. Let's go in and make a little bit of a change. We'll say, we'll put in some data there. We'll hit back. Saving it to the database. Note at the bottom, it's going to show what we're highlighted on. So if I choose the second one here, the detail shows based on what I'm clicking on. And delete and edit, those are pretty basic. All right, so we're going to exit out of the QA narratives. We're going to go to deficiencies. Note on the deficiencies that the lighter highlighted box means that we're on this box. The government's going to spend most of their time on the corrected, not verified. The contractor will spend most of their time on the issued, not corrected, right? So when we go into this daily report and we show the deficiencies on the contractor's side, they are on the issues not corrected. The reason why I'm showing you that is because I'm going to show adding one here. Because the contractor is going to add their QC deficiencies. When they do that, this is a problem, right? They're going to put it in a location, site, office 3, or location 3, or whatever. So office 3, hit OK, and then they can attach it to an activity if they want, whether or not it's based on an activity. Hit the back button. Note, now we have a not corrected issue right here, right? On the government side, if I hit refresh, note the not corrected has shown, right? So if the contractor says, hey, I added a deficiency and they want you to see it, make sure that it's been corrected. So until I hit the corrected button here on the contractor side, nope, it disappears from the issued not corrected and sends it over here. That's the database. Notice on the left-hand side, the contractor now has 1 of 1 corrected today, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to refresh. Note now on the government side, we got both of these here. This is the site office 3, and now the government can reissue or concur that this has been fixed, right? And down at the bottom has a summary of what the item is. All right, very good. Okay. So we were talking about the deficiencies, right? So the government can go in and add their own. The contractor can go in and add their own. We showed how the contractor went in and added their deficiency, right? The QC. Notice there's differences, right? There's a QA and there's a QC. So if you filter that down to QA or QC by clicking at the top, it's going to show only the contractor ones or only the government ones. So some contracts, I've seen this, where they have thousands of these, right? So it helps to be able to sort these down. Just keep in mind that depending on what tile that you're on, it's going to show what that filter is. So this is not corrected, these are all, and not verified, right? Okay. So we're going to go back off to the daily report. As we continue to work on the daily report, it should be filling out the information on the daily report, right? So we have the weather that we added, we have the narratives that we added, and now we can go off to the QA tests. Again, remember with the submittals, we started at the spec sections. we went off to the submittal register, and then we went off to the transmittal. It's kind of designed so that you start from the left to right and top down, right? So we have weather, narratives, and then we can do the deficiencies, and there's none verified today because we didn't actually click to verify them. If we did click to verify them, right here, concur, concur, notice it pops them over to the verified tab, and then we hit the back button. It's going to update the daily report and say, hey, you got 2 verified today, okay? So that's how that gets assigned. So when you go in and add a deficiency and issue them to the contractor, this should count as you're going and adding information. All right, let's go to the QA tests. So here we have the tests. We can go in and add a QA test. Real simple. You can set this to a specification section. Of course, I don't have any on this contract because I wasn't doing transmittal training on this contract. Where would you add this? You go over to the submittals and spec sections, and that's how you get that right there. So we can say Paul McGuire. We can say paragraph whatever, right? And then we can say this is a description of the test. Go in and add an activity. Say this is part of, installing the new gear. And then we can say, all right, this was performed on this day, right? And I give this a past code. If I wanted to, I can add a document package that says, all right, I can put a photo of what I did. I can put a document. Say if my district has a specific document that I have to follow, I can put that into the document package. Again, this specific document package won't go off to PCF until I complete the document package. All right. I hit back. And here is our QA test, right? So I click on that QA test. Information at the bottom shows my QA test. If I have thousands of these, I can sort them by section number, by test number, by clicking on these individual tiles. It's kind of hard to see right now, but let's go and add a second QA test. Test. We'll go in here, go back. Kind of give you an idea. If I click on the QA test, see how it sorts that? So you can sort it by description, you can sort it by date completed, and again, you can use the search if you want to. Alrighty, so that's kind of the simple QA test area, right? So as the government goes in and adds their tests for that day. This tile updated, and it shows a completed test today for the QA test. And now we have the final follow-ups. So we're going to continue to work our way down until we get down to the mishaps, and then we can complete out the document package here. So I'm going to go to QA final follow-up, and these are all of the from the contractor's QC, right? So I can go in and I can click on here and I can set outstanding, above average, satisfactory, and as soon as I move off that tile, it goes in and saves it, right? So now say I do outstanding and I say, oh, I wanted to undo that. I didn't actually mean to put anything in there. There's a blank slot right at the bottom here that allows you to wipe out what was in there. So if I accidentally put something in there that I didn't mean to, you just choose that and move off of it, right? So, sometimes I'm clicking through these things and I accidentally click something that has a drop down and I didn't want to set it, right? So that's what that blank slot is down at the bottom there. And there's quite a few areas inside of RMS that have that ability. So we'll do outstanding here, above average, and there you go. So you can go through and assign your ratings based on these final follow-ups. So we'll go back. And there we go. We've got 3 out of 38 completed today. So we'll save the rest for some other day or whatnot. Here we can go in and verify QC requirements that the contractor sent us on the left-hand side. So I'm going to go here and click on Verify QC Requirements. Again, the Add button's grayed out because it's expected that anything with QC comes from the contractor, right? Government deals with QA, contractor deals with QC. So let's go into the contractor side and let's create a requirement, right? Just so we can see what it looks like on the government side. So I'm going to go in, add a QC test. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the contractor side because we want to see what it looks like once I get it over to the government side, right? The contractor can assign it to a spec section. They can put in a location. They can say who it's performed by, assign it to an activity. And if you require, they can add a document package, right? So I'm going to say this has been completed. I'm going to move off of this module to save it back to the database. And if I hit refresh, it should show on my side. There we go. So we got the QC requirement, right? This is the real detailed requirement that the contractor sent us. so we can either reissue if we don't agree, or we can concur that this QC test is what we wanted them to do for this specific day, right? So I can hit concur there, I'll hit back, and I go back down. Alrighty, so we have labor interviews right here. Labor interviews are an area inside of RMS that a lot of districts use to put in certain information. So it's real important to note here that we don't want to include anything that has PII, anything at all inside of this module. So anytime we're adding information here during the interview, we don't want to import documents that have things that violate the PII directive from headquarters, right? So here we show that we went and we interviewed, say, this electric employee, right? We talked to Joe somebody, and we can select their labor classification. Oops. So this is a developer message. Just ignore that. That's for me. And we can search for electrician, right? So instead of scrolling through that massive list, right up here on the top right-hand corner, I went in and searched for and then that allows me to find electrician. Hit OK, and they make, I don't know, what's a good wage rate? 50 an hour? I have no idea. Anyway, so is labor interview, is this in agreement with payroll data? So you can go here and say, we have, yes, this agrees with payroll data, comments on payroll. You can put in any comments you want. And again, you can do a document package. It's real important to note, nothing with PII should go inside of this document package. So don't upload resumes here, don't upload pay statements, don't upload, things with PII, try to, avoid that. So this is the labor interview module, right? It allows you to do a document package. And again, this document package, if you want to get it off to PCF, has to be completed. Okay. Go back. And here's our labor interview, right? It was a electrician. It agrees with payroll. So pretty much simple right there. So hopefully these numbers will update here pretty soon. I may have to move off of the module and come back in. There we go. So one held today. All right, let's go to accident reporting, or mishap reporting as it's now called. Inside of here, we have the sort options at the top. So if there were a ton of mishaps on this specific day, or all on the contract period, right, then we can sort them based on whether or not they were recordable, lost time on the contract, only on this date, or all of them. So let's go in and add a mishap. Real simple, right? There's a description. It's whether or not it's recordable and how many days were lost on the contract if I click on recordable. And I can put in a date reported to the district if that was necessary, right? If there are any lost days. And again, a lot of districts have specific policies on what they use for mishaps and whatnot. So you can add that form to the document package if you need to. So this was an accident, really. And so it's not recordable, right? So we'll hit the back button. Updates this information. Note we have one mishap now, one on this date. On a different daily report, this mishap will show, but only on the all mishaps. Okay, all right, so we're back on the daily report, right? We have one mishap today. We've got one labor interview. We've got a couple final follow-ups, a QA test, and I can kind of see that by looking at this daily report. If I want to generate the daily report before I complete it, I can go and do a QA daily report up on the top right-hand corner. Now, let's say we want to complete this off, correct? And we want to do the signatures. So what we need to do now is complete this daily report so that it generates the QA report so that we can go in and sign this, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to click on Report Completed. And what that's going to do is generate the QA report and put that into the document package so that I can go and sign it, right? So hopefully, let's go in and edit the document package. So there's two signatures on the daily report, right? You have the QA, and then you have usually the supervisor or the COR. It depends on your district. So when you go in and sign these, you click on this button right up here, Sign Selected Documents. And it's expecting two signatures. And RMS will automatically change based on those signature positions. So I'm going to click on Sign Selected Documents. This is the document I want to sign, so I click on that. I'm going to hit the Next button at the bottom here. I can sign more if I have additional PDF files or Word documents. It will automatically convert them over to PDF. I hit the Next button, and note, it automatically says this is the QA rep for this contract. Next time I go in and sign, it's going to show the superintendent or the COR, right? So I'm going to hit Finish to actually sign this. And hopefully I don't cause a problem on this training database. I'm trying to sign this. I hit OK. And I'm just going to show when I come back in and sign this again, it will show a different signature. So right now at this point, most districts, or some districts, have a policy. The only one that can complete out a daily report is so-and-so, right? So as this rep, I'm going to back out. I'm going to back out again, and I'm done, right? So in here, the COR or the superintendent or whoever is going to come back in. They're going to open up the document package, and they're going to sign the selected document again, right? Check the box to sign that daily report. Hit the Next, and note we've got the RE or the project engineer, depending on how your district has this set up. So when I go in and sign this again, it's going to put my signature in the respective spot. And usually that person who signs it the second time is the one who completes out the daily report, right? Sends it off to PCF. All right, give me a second. Again, this complete document package button is what you need to do to get it sent off to PCF, okay? So you click on that button, that sends it off to PCF. So if I back out, I haven't completed, it says status not complete, correct? We need the review of the document package for the PCF document to go off to PCF. We're not going to do that right now, but if you do want to send that off to PCF, that kind of is the entire package. In order to complete this out fully, you have to go in and complete the document package. All right, and that's pretty much how a daily report works on the government side. Government goes in, the contractor has a daily report that's corresponding for that day. Whether or not it's a non-work day or a work day, the contractor goes in, completes out their daily report. The government can go in and view that daily report with that button on the top right-hand corner, right? I'm going to open up the daily report again. I can see the contractor's daily report at the top right-hand corner from the QA report with this button right here. And one of the quick questions that we had, can you provide the URL for the RMS channel? So we're talking about the YouTube channel, right? Okay, James will get that for you. But basically, you can go to our website, rms.usa.army.mil, and then there's RMS help videos on the bottom left-hand corner. We're kind of done with the QA report, so I can show that real quick. Let me hit back out of here. Let me back out of here. So I'm going to show you how to get to our website. We can do a new tab here, rms.usa.army.mil. Once you go there, down at the very bottom, RMS help videos. If I click on that, that's how I get to the YouTube channel. Yep. Click on that, I can show all government mode videos, or I can submit a ticket. So when I click on all government mode videos, a lot of times what I do is I just go here and I click on, this is showing me as if I'm the one with the channel, but you can click on the channel itself and then go to the videos tab, and that will show you the latest videos that we have right here. So that's what I do. I usually just click on the channel and then go to the videos tab. And we're doing about 4 of these a month. So you should see 4 new ones every month or so. Okay, back to RMS. Okay, so were there any questions on the daily reports before we move off? Kind of went through that a little bit quickly. Again, the contractor needs to go in and sign their daily report, finish off their daily report. Government goes in, creates a corresponding daily report, depending on your district's policies. And pretty straightforward. You go through, add the weather, the narratives, the tests, requirements, and then the signature process. Yeah, so how to get the QA report in the government document package. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the daily reports on the government side, and we're going to, we can open up the one that we already did. right down here is where I can add it. So if your district has a policy that says you have to print out a copy, sign it with pen, ink, or they have a form that they have you do, you can go in and add a new document package here, or you can open up this document package and add it to that screen, right? So I'm going to double click on this document package, and I can open up Windows Explorer here. I can say, all right, I want this file in here, and this is my daily report, right? And say I didn't sign it inside of RMS because my district requires me to sign it with a pen, and I can check this box right here that says manually signed by the government, or manually signed by the contractor, if it's the contractor's one, right? And that's how I get that in without doing it through RMS signatures. If you want to do it with your CAT card and sign the PDF with your CAT card, you click on these Sign Selected Documents right up here. How do you get that daily report in there? When you check the box Report Completed, it pops it into the document package. So I'm going to give this a try here. I'm going to unselect this Report Completed, and I'm going to select it completed again. Nope, it went through and created a report. It saved it to the database inside the document package. I'm going to go into the document package again, and now there's going to be 3 files. Nope. There's the one that we signed from last time, and there's the new daily report that we just popped in there. How do you get the daily report into the document package? You check that box completed, and it will automatically put a daily report into the document package that you can sign. This one hasn't been signed because we haven't gone through that whole process. If you manually sign one, say you have a PDF file here or a Word document, this is that RMS Beginners Training Word document. You can drag and drop that. Oh, I have it opened up so I can't move it in. Close out of here. Save that to the hard drive and drag and drop that into the document package. Give that a few seconds. There we go. So here's where I have the Word document. Note at the top, I have a filter of what documents are inside of the document package. The PDF files, the Word documents, text files, or all of the documents. So if your contractor goes in and pops in 100 files, it's a little bit easier to sort for them at the top here, or sort by searching. You do not have to drag and drop to this little box right here. You can do it in the big window here. To export all of these files out, you do export selected documents or save specific document to file. And again, to send this off to PCF, complete document package right here at the bottom right-hand corner. And that, as soon as you complete the document package, it sends it off. Now, if you've completed the document package and you forgot a file that needs to go in, no problem. Just go in and add another document package, this button right here, and add your file to that document package and complete it off again, okay? So even though you've completed something and sent it off to PCF, later on, if you forgot something, there's a stack of papers under your desk that hid something, you can put it into here, complete this document package off, and it will go off to PCF for this specific daily report. Note, package number 2. So it's pretty versatile. You can do whatever you need to do. You can say, you accidentally created this document package, go in and delete it, whatnot. So we're going to move off of this daily report. And I think that covers everything in the daily reports. Yes, we will be going to finances next. So what we're going to do is hop over to contract finances. And I believe we're mostly going to be showing the government side. So I'll try to move this to the center here. There we go. And I'm going to let Kimberly here explain the contract finances. If the telephone is muted, by the way, do a *6, and that should unmute it, because I think we muted all. Perfect. I think I've got.
Paul, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay. Okay, so our next topic, one of the most commonly asked questions from a finance perspective with RMS was just to have us walk through a pay request. So with this training, we're looking at really how to use the software to do it. Every district may have their own. We're going to follow a typical business process for processing the payment, and there are things that we as contract administrators out in the field are required to do as part of the business process outside of RMS, but we're going to go through pushing the buttons. So as we all know, part of the process is that throughout construction, you're going to be conducting a schedule meeting with your contractor. You'll do a walkthrough to define progress for the time period, mostly on a monthly basis. Sometimes we don't get pay requests for maybe 3 months, but from the last pay request, you're going to go through progress of each activity. And then the contractor will upload their schedule update with STEP file, and that information with the progress is going to be imported into the progress payment module, and they will be submitting that progress payment over to the government. So, Paul, if you'll go into progress payment.
There. Do you see it?
Yeah, there's a little bit of lag.
Okay, cool.
So the contractor, you'll see that top row is an invoice that has already been processed and approved in, well, yep, you're highlighted on one. So when we get a payment, we will receive it and we'll end date it. And I know this is a training, so I guess go ahead and go into that.
That first one? Okay.
Yep. The bottom of that screen is going to give you the payment status of each progress payment. And you go into past pay apps, you're going to get that warning that says, you know, you're looking at a previous pay app and that it's not the current information. So it's grayed out because this is one that has already been processed. So the first thing that you're going to do when you receive an invoice is you're going to date the invoice receive date. All the other 3 dates should be inputted by the contractor. So it's going to cover the pay period from, so February 1st, this pay estimate covers work that was performed through the 19th of February from the 1st of February. The payment invoice date is the date that the contractor provided or they sent the payment invoice, and then the invoice received date is going to be the date that you received a proper pay package. So a lot of times, and it could be vary by district, you may actually receive a pay package through email. They should be sending most of their documents through RMS, but I know that there are some times where you receive the schedule updates and all the reports in an email, and then you process it through RMS. Okay, so you've put in your date for invoice received, and then you'll see that most of the times you're not going to be dealing with the discount days or discount percent. In that next section on the right-hand side, if you do receive a pay app that does not have the correct documents in it, there is that bottom button, and this one's grayed out, but in an active pay request, it'll be there for you to click. The Return for Corrections button is going to be the one that you're going to want to hit to return it back to the contractor, and that will allow them to reprocess their pay request. The next section is the ENG 93 remarks. In this section is a free text section. That area is where you're going to put any notes back to the contractor to document if you've made any changes to their pay request, If you have withheld any funds from the contractor's payment due to something that is applied in their contract, such as retainage, those ENG 93 remarks are very important. They get placed on the actual ENG 93 and get processed and seen at the Finance Center so that any withholding, anything is explained and documented. This payee office is going to be automatically populated, and that's done through the contract setup. When you add, at the very beginning of the contract, need to make sure that that address matches the address in the contract. And then you'll have the preparer and the approved by signature right there, where you can select those, and those are going to be populating the ENG 93 in the signature section. Okay, the next tab over is going to be the Requested Activity Earnings tab, and we'll go into that. Okay, so you've got the boxes at the top. What's going to default, populate by default, is going to be any activities that the contractor is requesting payment for that pay request. And that's the activities with earnings this period. If you want to see all of the available activities that have not been fully paid, you can click on that box, and that's going to show you all of the activities that they can request payment for. And then you have the All Activities box that's going to show every activity that's on the contract right now. So it'll show everything that is in any stage of payment, plus what has been 100% paid. So for ease of processing a pay app, the default is the activities with earnings this period. So for this particular one, they are requesting full payment at 100%. Now this data is going to be imported. If they have imported a SDEF file and they have progressed activities, this is going to be updated when they update their SDEF file and start to process their pay app. Or if you have a contract where they're not using that schedule section, they will go in and manually update these pay percentages. So this is a reflection of what the contractor has requested. So the next tab over is going to be where you have the opportunity to review the requested earnings for that period. Now, let's just say that activity 0001, which they are requesting 100%, you go through and you look at the pencil copy of, let's just say the QA and the project manager or QC for the contractor have gone and done a site walk. And the pencil copy shows that you have agreed to 90% progress, and their pay request shows 100. You can go in and you can manually override their percentage. So here we agreed to 90% on our pencil copy. So you go and click in that box.
Do you want me to go to the second invoice so I can actually change? Because I think we're read-only on this one.
Yes, yes, please.
Give me a second here. So here we go. Oh, contractor's going to go in and complete that here in a second. Give me a second.
And while he's doing that, it's very important to note, if you're going to change anything in their pay app without returning it for corrections, there's two ways you can do that. If you want it to be very clean, where you're not overriding any of their requested information, I would suggest that you return it for corrections and say, hey, you've requested 100% on this activity, and the agreed upon percentages were this. And you can give the contractor the opportunity to make changes to their invoice and send it back to you. if for time purposes, let's say you call the contractor and you say, hey, I found this error, and they say, go ahead and change it. One of the things that I would definitely do is note in that ENG 93 remarks section that you have changed a pay activity from what they requested to the allowed percentage. It's just very important that any changes get documented so that down the line there's no disagreement on, well, hey, this guy kept changing what I asked for. You can actually document, hey, the agreed upon percentage from the pencil copy was this. 100% was requested in error. Maybe document that you called them, whatever. Very important that you put that in the ENG 93 remarks. Okay, so to make that make the correction there, and let's say on this one we're in a different pay request, so they asked for 90, and we're going to go in and type in 80. That was what was agreed upon in the field. So that's going to go ahead and change the amount on that pay request, and then you would subsequently check all of your other requested activity earnings with the pencil copy to make sure they match, document any changes that you've made, and then you're ready to move on. Under the next tab is Subcontractor Earnings. This is the area that is going to generate your prompt pay certificate. This is going to be, this is populated on the contractor side. There's really not anything for us to do on this page, but this is going to give you information on how the pay estimate is divvied between the subcontractors. Now, this information can be populated when the contractor imports their SDEF. They will have connected their subcontractors with responsibility codes, or they would manually enter this on their side. The next tab is Allowed CLIN Earnings. So as you know, the way that pay, it's important to understand the way that RMS talks to CFMs. So CFMs, when a contract is awarded by contract line item or CLIN. So that information is brought over into RMS. RMS then takes the contract line items, which when you think about it, is an obligation line item in RMS, or in CFMs, I'm sorry. It comes over to RMS as a contract line item, and then we take those contract line item amounts and we separate those into activities that add up to the contract line item. So there may be 20 different activities, and the sum of the activity costs are going to add up to the total contract line item. If by any chance, when an SDEF is imported into RMS, if the sum of the activities that are tied to a contract line item, which is in the activity coding bid item, BIDI, you will get an error saying that it's unbalanced. And that's when you go back and have the contractor make sure that their activities add up to the CLIN item. So under CLIN Earnings, what's happening here is it's going to show you a roll-up of the total earnings that have been requested for a contract line item. So it's going to add up everything that has been requested and give you that running total. So in this particular invoice, there has been $1,000.40 that is going to be paid out of CLIN 1. And if there's multiple CLINs on your contract, it's going to add up all of the activities that are associated with a CLIN, and it's going to give you those CLIN totals on here. So you may have one CLIN or you may have 20 CLINs. It just depends on your contract. Okay, so I see, where does retainage show up? We just happen to be working our way that way. So Barry, I know the suspense is killing you. We're going to get there. Okay, this next tab is activity earnings, and you see this one box that you can fill out, and that is the estimated stored materials included in activity earnings. There are some contracts where, and it's up to the contracting officer, that you can pay a contractor for stored materials. And let's just say in my past contracts where I've allowed that, it's been when you have large dollar value items that a contractor has got to pay their supplier up front, and you may have those materials sitting on site for a few months, but the contractor is out that money up front at delivery and not at install. So that would be like, let's just say you're putting up a big prefabricated metal building, your red iron shows up, and it's going to take you a couple of months to get all that red iron up. Okay, well, they've got $300,000 worth of red iron sitting out on the site. You're going to go inspect it. They're required to inventory it. And you can go ahead and pay them the $300,000 up front, but then you then have to track, and this goes way further into the business process than we're going to cover here. But if you're going to pay them up front, there's a separate accounting that has to occur as those as the red iron is actually installed. So my suggestion, there's a couple of different ways that you can do stored materials, and it is up to your resident engineer as to how that's going to be approached, and that's an upfront agreement that you need to have with your contractor. So you can do that through this tab where you estimate the stored materials that are included in activity earnings. What that's going to do is reduce the amount of the payment because you've already paid that money out. Or the easier way to do it in RMS is to have an actual activity for the material delivery on site, and you can pay that. You can pay it as an activity and not have to track it with the spreadsheet. Where would you see there is stored material, or is that something we're supposed to know? So stored material is something that you're going to work out with your contractor outside of RMS. They will make that request to you. You should probably discuss that at your pre-construction meeting or mutual understanding meeting when you're talking about billing. They will probably ask you whether they can get paid or not for stored materials, and that's just a discussion that you need to have. So there is not necessarily unless you note it that way in a certain activity, there's not really a way to see stored material. Where would you see there is stored material, or that there's? Okay, so we're going to move on to obligation line item. Oh, I forgot. Paul's got his cursor on. In this tab, once you have verified that all of the activities are correctly entered and you've looked and made sure that the activity earnings are correct, you've taken care of any stored material requests in the contract, you need to, in order to move on to the next tab, you must check this total allowed earnings for this pay period is entered. So once you check that box, you're able to go to the Obligations tab. Okay, Barry, this is where we're going to answer your retainage question. Okay, so this is going to give you a roll-up of the pay per obligation line item. And you'll see that our pay request on the second line item is going to pay out of obligation line item number 2, that $1,000.40. Let's just say that your contract requires, and always check your particular contract language, that the contract defines that you are going to retain a certain dollar amount, and let's say it's for as-built. Sometimes you have a percentage that is defined in your contract, and sometimes you have a dollar value. So let's just say that your contract requires that we are going to withhold $50 until such time that we have as-built. And so what we're going to do, that's not necessarily considered retainage. That is considered an other reduction this period. So we go in there and we enter in $50. That's going to reduce that pay by the $50. So we are withholding that. Okay, and let's just say on this pay app that our contractor really fell behind schedule. And our contract defines that the contracting officer can withhold for lack of progress. And it will define a certain percentage. Let's just say that percentage is 10%. So we're going to go into the retainage percent, and we're going to withhold 10%. And that is going to be 10% from this pay app. Okay, so you'll see that 10% reduction has been applied and a $50 deduction has been applied as well. So, Barry, does that answer your question? You may, let's see, after you've entered in the retainage, you're going to see in the lower left-hand that retainage to date now is populated by the $100.04 that we've inputted. And there's also a box, and in this case it's 0, but it will keep a running total of what you have previously retained on other pay requests. If you have retained on a previous request and you need to return some of that, let's just say you retained because the contractor was way behind and they're starting to catch up. So you're going to agree, the contractor's probably going to request that you release some of their retainage. And let's just say that you're going to release a certain amount or a certain percentage. Where you're going to do that, and in this case, there's no previous retainage, but we'll show you, there's a column that's called Retainage Refund This Period. If you have previously retained money, that's where you're going to enter the amount that you're going to return. If you have if you've retained using the other deductions this period, which is a dollar amount that is defined in the contract, that is where you're going to go to the other refunds this period. Let's just say in a previous pay app, you have retained $100 or a couple $100 for as-built, and you received them during this pay period, and you've accepted them. that is where you are going to release the other deductions once whatever you're holding is received. You usually do that towards the latter part of a contract. Maybe you're doing that on a final pay where you've paid 100% on all the activities, but you've retained an amount because your contract says, I'll pay for all the progress, but you're retaining a deduction for the receipt of closeout documentation. That's usually where you're going to do that. Okay. The other item to point out on this screen is going to be accruals. Okay, so hopefully everybody has an understanding of what accruals are, but if not, here's a kind of a down and dirty explanation. So accruals are, let's just say that we have not received a progress payment from a contractor in 3 months. That doesn't necessarily mean that the contractor hasn't progressed through construction. They have actually, there's placement happening in the field. They just have not been paid for it. So an accrual is basically the value or estimated value of placement that has occurred that the contractor has not paid for, or that we have not actually paid the contractor for. CFUMS right now is defining what that accrual amount is right now, I believe. And those funds are held in accruals in CFUMS. So here it's showing that there's $628.63 that's held in accruals, which means that is the projected placement that has happened over the past, since the last pay app, that is actually placed in the field that we have not paid for. It's basically assurance that we have money in the bank for accepted construction. So the total obligation for line item number 2 is $27,947. There's been no previous payment against that $27,000, and the CFUMS accrual is that there is an estimated $628.63 that has been placed. The available for earnings is going to be your obligation in CFUMS minus any previous earnings minus the amount that is accrued in CFUMS. So right now we have $27,318.37 that we can pay the $850.36 pay app from. If the amount that is accrued in CFUMS makes it to where you do not have enough available for earnings, that is when you need to go into CFUMS and reverse the accrual. That will free up the funds to be able to pay your pay request. So let's see. Okay. This box on the right-hand side is going to give you any errors that RMS is pre-programmed to check certain things to make sure that everything is done so that the payment can shift over and be sent to the Finance Center. So it's picking up that we have an error that we have not entered in a receive date for our pay request. So you go back to the Invoice tab, and we're going to say that we received this invoice today. Now when we go back to that Obligations tab, you'll see that that error has been cleared. And basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to address any of the errors that come up. There's various errors that are typical And then once you've cleared all the errors, you're going to hit the checkbox for ENG 93 completed. And so that basically says, okay, we've done everything. We've checked everything. We're ready to put all the information on an ENG 93. And it's going to process. Okay, now you're going to come over to the document package, because even though we've completed this, we have not provided our signature on the ENG 93. So you'll see that there's two different document packages. The one on the top is going to be the contractor package, and that should include all of the different reports that are required. They might have provided you with the schedule. Okay, there's a note from James that says CFMS automatically applies the accrual balances to payments when they're submitted now, so you no longer have to go into CFMS and manually reverse the accruals. Okay, so your contractor should have uploaded all the reports that are required, and then there's this government package. We're going to go in and hit edit to go into the government package, and that's where you're going to see there should be, I believe it's 2 reports that are going to show up. One is going to be your ENG 93, and the other one is going to be the payment calculation. These 2 are automatically generated, so that ENG 93 report is going to be the one that you are going to want to sign. And so if you want to go ahead and you're going to say sign selected documents. And there's 2 places that need to be signed by the contract or by the government, and that's going to be as the preparer and as the approver. So the default is to sign it in order, and that will be the preparer will sign it and then the approver will sign it. Well, let's just say your preparer hasn't signed it and whoever approves it is in the office and they want to go ahead and sign it. You would go and toggle in this signature position. If your ACO is going to sign it before the preparer did, you're going to want to toggle that to the approver. And then, okay, he's going to show, are you going to show the toggling? And you'll see that there's 2 different choices. So as the COR or ACO, I'm going to toggle it that I want to put it in the approver position. You can go up and you can enter in whose signature needs to go in there. And there should be there's a lookup function where you can.
This contract doesn't have any.
Oh, okay. If there are signature blocks that are populated in there, you can look it up. That one just happens to be empty. And then you can select the title, whether it's ACO, contracting officers, representative. It might be the contracting officer that's going to sign it. That's where you would put that. And then you're going to hit finish down at the bottom, and that's going to sign in the appropriate signature position. And then when the preparer wants to sign, they will go into RMS and do the same thing. They're just going to provide it in the signature position for the preparer. So it's 2 separate signatures. Okay, and you'll be able to see that on this ENG 93 report, there are, you're going to have 2 different signatures. You've got the contractor signature and the government. There is an ENG, there's 2 separate reports. So on the contractor package, there will be if you were to go back and go into the contractor package, there's an ENG 93 report that has the contractor signature on it. Okay, so now what he's showing is this is the ENG 93 that RMS generates.
You want me to go back to that? I'm sorry, I closed out of that kind of fast. Back to the ENG 93. All right, opening that back up. Give that a few seconds. There we go. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So this is going to bring up your ENG 93. And if you'll scroll down, it'll show that we've signed it as preparer. Okay, and you're right. There is times when accruals have not automatically been reversed, and yes, the RM for your particular district can go in, and if they've got rights in CFMs, they can go in and reverse those accruals. Okay, and so now you can see we did the contracting officer's approval signature, and you'll see that Paul's signature is down there. And remember that we didn't sign as the preparer just yet, and so that signature right on top in the ABC box in box 14 has not been signed yet. And if you had put any remarks, box 18 would be populated in the ENG 93. We didn't do that, but that's where I was saying if you held new retainage, you should document that, and that will be populated on the form. I know I previously came from the Kansas City district. If we did final pay, we would put in the remarks section, we actually had a form that we would freeform in there for the signing of the release of claims. We would actually put that on the ENG 93. It just depends on what your district does as their business practice, that you can put those on there. Okay, so we can close out of that. And you will want to, again, complete the package after you have signed your ENG 93. And then, Paul, let me make sure that I'm correct. If you'll back out of that and you'll go to the Obligations tab again. The way that we get the payment to go over to CFMs is we are going to check that box, ENG 93 completed, and then we're going to send payment to CFMs. You need to click that. That's what's going to send all the data over to CFMs. And you will need to go over to CFMs, and the approver will look up that pay request and hit the approve. The sending the payment over to CFMs is not an automatic approval in CFMs. CFMs is the financial program of record where the approval is actually done. That was one of the questions in a previous training, was why doesn't the signature on the ENG 93 count for the approval? It is because RMS is not the official financial software where those approvals are done. It is CFMs. Because let's just say RMS went down and was offline, and we could not generate an ENG 93. You can go and manually enter all of this information into CFMs and pay a contractor without RMS. It is a pain in the rear, but it can be done. And so CFMs is the official payment software for USACE. So that's why those signatures, the signature on the form and the signature in CFIMS are not the same thing. So that is the general walkthrough of processing a pay request. Are there any additional questions that we can go through on that? Okay, hearing none. Okay, did we schedule this to 12 or 12:30?
That is a good question. Let's see here. Looks like 12.
Benita's saying 12:30.
Okay.
So we have time. Let's go ahead and go to administration, and let's run through RFIs and some correspondence.
Okay. All right. Did you want me to do that real quick? We can do a correspondence run through and then an RFI run through.
I'll kind of do a little bit of a lead in on the correspondence. So a good way to be able to get correspondence into PCF is to correspond with the contractor via RMS. Many, and this is where there's a lot of variability within our whole enterprise, is some field offices are very strict about their correspondence between contractors and the government, where they will do it all through RMS, and some are okay just with doing it, via email. But the only way that it's going to get to PCF is either manually downloading all of that correspondence directly into PCF or loading it into RMS. Some people out in the field do not have direct access to PCF, and if you don't, RMS is the way to get it in there. So let's just say, I'll say one of the really good things about RMS is that with RFIs and correspondence, you can track, let's just say you send a letter to the contractor. So let's kind of walk through that, Paul. Okay, so we're sending a letter to the contractor, and we're going to hit add. And so it's automatic. RMS is automatically going to number the correspondence. And it's going to add it, and then you're going to double click on that line item. One of the really good things about RMS is that you can track the correspondence. So this is going to create a letter, and the letter is going to be dated today's date. If it needs to be dated a future date because you've got it in draft and you know when you're going to send it, you can change that date. We're going to send it on Friday. One of the things that is good about RMS is that you can track it. So if that letter requires the contractor to answer you back, you can toggle that box and give them a suspense date of when they should answer you back. So we're going to send this on this Friday, and we want the answer by next Friday. So we'll put the 18th of September. Okay. You're going to want to put a little summary of what the topic of your letter is. And then we're going to create the letter. And you're going to say, create new letter. And you'll hit add. Okay. Here this looks very similar to a document package where we've seen everywhere else. Okay, so we're gonna create this letter, and you go over in the upper right-hand corner and you can say generate letter. Okay, and it's going to start thinking. And here it's going to give you all of the different templates that you can use to send a letter. Now, each district is going to have some populated templates in there. The administrators for your district can add those in. There's some standard, there are some standard letters that are already in there that are like all districts. Let's just say it's a general letter. We're going to select that and say okay.
Yeah, I think this training contract does not like the templates that we have for this. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, so in general, the districts are going to have templates in there, and if you're familiar with Word, they have their Word documents that have macros in them that look for certain data points that you've entered. So where we entered in the date of the document, that's going to, the macro in the template's going to look for that, and it's going to auto-populate the date of the letter. It may have an answer is required by, and it will pull the information that you entered in previously. It's going to bring up that template, and then you're going to be able to work within Word to populate the body of that letter. When you're done, you can save that letter, and it is saved directly in RMS. You can also, I believe, you can edit that document outside of RMS, and then you can upload it as a signed letter. Maybe you want to sign it as a PDF and send it to the contractor. One thing, too, is that the sharing mode over on the right-hand side, I believe you can toggle that to be shared with the contractor or be government only. Is that correct, Paul?
Yes. So this kind of just gives a summary. If it's a government-only document package, it's going to say not shared with the contractor. I don't think it lets you change it, but yeah. So this is a shared document package expected to be used by both the government and the contractor.
Okay. So then if you go back, hitting the back button, can you run through sending that to the contractor where it shows up on their side?
Sure. So we went through the document package. We tried to generate a letter with a template. Because this is a testing contract, a lot of the templates that we have are from 2013, and they don't quite work so well with a 2020 copy of RMS3. I apologize for that. And so to get this correspondence letter, a C letter, over to the contractor, we have to go make sure all this information is input, and then right here at the sent status on the top right-hand corner, we can say that the draft letter is complete, the letter was approved, and the letter was sent. The reason why there's 4 options here is because different districts have ways of making sure that things get approved before it's sent out. So, for example, with RFIs, you have an approval structure that you have to go through before it can be sent off to the contractor. Because a lot of this stuff, it can be used legally, correct? The contractor can take this as your word on the contract. So here, you can say it's been complete, it's been approved, and until it's been this option right here, sent, it's not going to go over to the contractor's side. So let's prepare the contractor's side to see the correspondence. So I'm going to go to Administration, Correspondence. On the contractor side, everything's blank, right? Because we haven't completed out the letter on the government side. Again, if you want this to go off to PCF, you're going to want to complete the document package itself, right? So until that gets completed, that's not going to go off to PCF. Because this is an old contract on a testing database, I'm not going to hit that completed button because we tried that on the other contract and things weren't so happy. So I am going to go here and I'm going to say, all right, this draft letter is complete, right? I can move off. Somebody else can come in and say, all right, I approve this letter. And go back, come back in, and say, all right, I'm going to send this letter off to the contractor. Now, once I hit that sent and I go back, that will process off the correspondence. So you notice it disappears from the screen. Why did it disappear from the screen? Because we are in the correspondence draft area right here. This screen doesn't quite tell you exactly what filtering box you're on, kind of with either a lighter outline or a box. That's something that we'll add later. Right now we have one sent. So we go to the sent, that's our C letter right there. Okay? And we'll go over to the contractor side, hit the refresh button. And the contractor, again, they don't have anything. So if your contractor calls you up and says, I don't have that letter that you sent me, make sure that they're on the received tab, not on the draft tab. Okay? So the little title in the middle there will show correspondence draft. So we're going to go over to the Receive tab, click that box right there, and when we click on that box, there is the letter from the government. So the contractor is going to open that up. And once the contractor opens that up, they get to see everything. They can create a new letter to answer this one with this button right here in the middle. They can also view the shared document package down right here. So let's go in and view that. Oh, they can't view it until the government completed it. So when the government goes in and does a document package, make sure that it's completed because the contractor won't be able to see it in this case. So that Word template that we made, that we tried to make, we went in and created a general letter that was a docx, Microsoft Word document. Make sure that we go in and complete that document package out. I can go in and go ahead and try to complete that out, see if that doesn't result in a crash here. Give me a second. So we're going to complete this document package. Boom. All right, we're going to go back out. Notice it wasn't signed. You can complete a document package without signing. What I've been told from REs out in the field is that usually everything needs to be signed if it can be signed, right? So yes, checking this complete will send it off to PCF, not signed, which is, if your RE is okay with that, that's fine. So I hit back. Now the document package has been accepted, right? Now the contractor should be able to go in and view this. Of course, we need to hit refresh to show that the package was accepted. We're going to view. And there we go. There's that document that we tried to create on the government side, that Word template that Kimberly was going through. So they can go in and view the document. I'm not going to view this document because I think it's a blank document and it might result in some problems. But they can go in and view this document and whatnot. So there we go. And say the contractor wants to go in and create an answer. Notice the answer due. So that's that suspense state that Kimberly was talking about. The answer due right here, that will show up and let the contractor know, hey, you need to respond to this on this date. So let's go back out. On the selection view right here, we have answer due, and it has not been answered yet. So I'm going to go in on the contractor's side, create a new letter to answer that letter. They have the options to doing it from home office or site office. I'm just going to do this real quick because we're supposed to be focusing on the government side. Notice the contractor letters are not C, they are H letters. And while that's thinking, I'm going to go back over here on the government side. Okay, so here's an H letter that the contractor is sending off to the government. Looks very similar, right? So I can say, notice that on the answers, the letters answered by this letter correspondence, we have the C letter that the government created. So right in here, this letter, this correspondence letter, H0001, is an answer to C0001. And as things progress, both of these columns will be filled out. So again, same thing on the contractor side. They can add a document package if they want to. They don't have to if they don't want to, if you don't require it. And then the same thing here on the contractor side. They have the completed. Until they select this option, it does not send it off to the government. Again, contractor can say, hey, I want an answer on this, but they don't give the government a suspense date. So we can say, all right, I'm going to send this off to the government. Once I select this letter marked sent, cannot edit it again. So boom, everything becomes read-only on the contractor side. They hit the back button, goes back to the C letter that we answered, hit the back button again, and there we go. So now we have one in sent and one in received. On the government side, we're going to hit refresh. Notice the boxes changed. We have one in the sent, we have one in the received. So right here we have the H letter that the contractor sent to us. And this is the letter that they answered, right? So that's kind of the summary of correspondence. In correspondence, you can do C letters, the site office letters, the home office letters, and in-house memos. So there's a variety of different letters that you can add, especially from other agencies, requests for proposal, et cetera, et cetera. So that's pretty much correspondence. For anything a little bit more official, that's usually where we go and do RFIs. So let's hop over to RFIs. And okay, request for information, and we'll go to request for information. All right, so same thing as correspondence. This is a little bit more official, so RMS is in charge of the numbering. Let's go and create an RFI on the government side. So on the government side here, I'm going to hit the add button. We can add a government RFI, but it's usually intended that the contractor creates the RFI. So RMS allows us to go in and create a G RFI, G for government. So we can hit OK if we want to do that. And now that's creating a new government RFI. But these are expected to come from the contractor side. So here, notice when I go and create a government RFI, I can't speak as the contractor, right? So all this is blank. You're supposed to go over to the government response and enter in the government RFI. So here I can go in and I can type in the government response. Let's go over this if we send it from the contractor side. So I'm going to go back out and I'm going to go to the contractor and I'm going to add an RFI from the contractor side. And ignore the developer message. You guys won't be getting that on your side. So here we go. On the contractor side, my name is Paul. I'm going to ask that it comes back on this date. I'm going to have the requested date today. Notice I cannot complete the checkbox here. The contractor sometimes will call you up and say, there's just no way I can get this RFI over to you. And the reason being is because we have to have a subject and we have to have information that this RFI is based on entered into the RFI before the completed box gets checkable or editable, right? So, all right, so this is test RFI 1. We're going to go in and we can do a simple spec section, 45, I forget which one that was, 15 or 16. We can select this to a feature of work. We can go in and do a drawing or detail and information requested. And they put in that information, right? Of course, I can say as a contractor, right? I can also go in as the contractor and add a document package. I'm not required to, but I can. So if there are documents associated with this, which often with RFIs and correspondence, there are a ton of attachments, right? Pictures, models, et cetera, whatever, recordings, they can all add this to the document package. So for the sake of time, I'm going to do this real quick. So we have, whether or not it's a potential cost impact, a schedule impact, so those can be checked if they want. Notice now we can complete this RFI and send it off to the government. Again, top right-hand corner, we have RFI form. So if they want to see what it looks like before they complete it out, they can hit this button and it will generate a report based on the information that we've typed in the screen, right? So I'm going to hit the completed box. It's telling the contractor, once you check that completed box, you can't undo it, right? So boom, it's been checked as completed. And of course, we're awaiting a government response. So they're not going to see anything until the government goes through and responds to that, right? So I'm going to back out. Notice when I backed that out, it actually processed that RFI. So if the contractor's sitting on the RFI that they completed, it's not going to send it to you until they back out and actually process that RFI. So sometimes we get people calling up saying, I created this RFI, my contractor created this RFI, and it's not getting to me because they're sitting on that RFI waiting to hit the back button. So that's something that we try to tell users. When you're doing something in RMS, make sure you hit that back button. That back button basically says, I'm saving the data off to the database and processing it. Sometimes, as you've seen on the transmittals area, it will not require a complete backup for everything to work. So if there's check boxes that you complete and whatnot. All right, so here we go. Here are the RFIs. Here are the RFIs awaiting response right here on the contractor side. So now we're going to go over to the government side, hit refresh. Now the government has 2 RFIs, right? So for the government to go in, they have to put in a receive date. So when the government opens up that RFI, here is what the contractor sent them, right? We had the information that they're requesting. It's all grayed out, right? Because the contractor is the one that created this tab. On the government response tab, that's where the government goes in and puts in all their information. So you click on the government response tab, boom, here we go. We have answer prepared by, we have a receipt acknowledged by. So this date kind of, lets the contractor know I've received this, right? So a lot of districts have specific requirements on when you can put that date in because there's consequences, right, based on what's being done in the contract. If there's litigation, if there's things going that require dates. So these dates are really sensitive because the contractor will see them when they're put in. So we're going to put in a date there. Notice when I put in that date received, the receipt acknowledged by puts in what's on my CAP card. So if I'm logged into RMS with a CAP card, boom, it pops that in right there, right? Now, notice these boxes on the right-hand side are grayed out. If you move your mouse over them, it'll tell you why they're grayed out. I can't go in and complete this answer until an RFI date answered is then selected into here. So right there. And then on this one, the RFI answer was not completed. So a lot of districts have requirements. The person putting in the RFI usually is the one that just completes it, and then boom, they're done. The COR or the ACO will go in and approve the answer because a lot of the stuff with RFIs, again, there's consequences to it. It can be legally binding. It can be, there's been cases where it's been used in court, et cetera, right? So this request for information, we're going to go in. We're going to say, this is what the and if the government has secondary reviewers, you can go in and add these secondary reviewers. Note these secondary reviewers are based on the staff. So the request that we got is that these secondary reviewers are often paid for their opinions, right? So what we're going to do is when we go and add them, they have to be staff inside of RMS. So once they've been added into RMS, they can go in and add their secondary reviewer remarks, put in a date, and put in a completed date, and that's all grayed out so that none of that can be edited. But you'll have to talk to your office administrator to create a staff entry for them if they don't exist. So for example, if we go in here and choose this person, hit OK, it's going to go in and add this section to the database for this specific RFI. Now, because I'm a developer, I can edit this, right? So only Dwayne can go in and edit this if they're the one doing the secondary reviewer remarks for this specific package, right? So we're going to go in here. They're going to enter in their information. And again, this is a test database on a test contract, et cetera. Again, I need to put in a date answered here. So when I get all this done, I go in and I put in dates. We put in a date here for secondary response. And there we go. Go back. And yes, Kimberly states secondary reviewer remarks will not show up in government response. I'm going to go here just so you know what it looks like if a modification is requested and there is a specific change request in the finances area. I don't think this contract has any. Oh, it does. Okay. You can go in and select that specific change request for the modification required. I'm going to wait for the screen to catch up. There we go. Now, I'm going to go in and put in an answer date. I can go in as the government on this shared document package, and I can add a document package with, references to specific sections, whatever I need to do, to show the contractor, hey, this is why I decided to do A, B, C, right? All right, so I'm going to go in and hit the answer date. I'm going to put in today's date. Note, only one checkbox is available. So usually the the engineers that we talk to, they're going in and they're putting in the RFI. The one that completes it is not the one that approves it, right? So usually someone else in the contract with these permissions will go in and check this box. Now, if I remember correctly, if you do not have the COR or ACO permissions, you won't see that checkbox. So sometimes when you go to complete the answer, a lot of times, we'll get calls saying, well, I completed the answer. How come the contractor doesn't see it? Well, the COR has to go in and actually approve this. And once they approve it, then that goes off to the contractor, right? So now that we've completed it, let's go and back out. So it actually processes the RFI. Nope, got to back out to process the RFI. So while it's sitting here contacting the government server to save these changes, we can call up the contractor and say, hey, we responded to this RFI. You should now see this response. Note, contractor has only one waiting response, the government RFI, and the one completed. So we're going to go over here to the completed. Contractor opens that up. And when they open that up, two tabs, right? The first tab is the one that they were specifically on, and the one with the government response. Like Kimberly said, secondary reviewer remarks do not show up on the contractor side, and they do get an automatic RFI form inside of the document package. And back to Kimberly, because it is 10:30. Let me know if you want me to keep going or not.
Okay, I think so. That wraps up our allotted time. Are there any, we can entertain a few minutes worth of questions. Otherwise, we'll stop the recording.